how to add your fish into your aquaponics system. Whether they're goldfish, whether they're food fish, whether they're what, as long as they're freshwater fish, this is going to work. Actually, it will work for marine too, but aquaponics is all about freshwater. We can't just dump our fish in the aquaponics system. It's not going to work that way. You're going to cause major issues for water quality and blah blah blah. So this video will go through and show you what to do and what to avoid. So to make sure that you're going to have healthy fish going into your aquaponics system. You don't want to be putting sick fish into your aquaponics system. So let's go through the video and actually see how to acclimatize your fish to your aquaponics system, but also how to get them healthy and make sure that they're great to go into your system. Awesome. Check out the description to find some more information about aquaponics and how you can move forward and get this happening. It's one of those things that you've built your aquaponics system, you've cycled your system, you're ready to go, and you get your fish and you can't wait to add them. And if you don't acclimatize your fish to their new environment, they'll end up dying. And unfortunately, that is such a common thing. Now, we need to acclimatize them to the temperature. So if you've got them in a big bag or in a container or something like that, we don't want to be adding any of that water into our own aquaponic system because we don't know what condition that water is anyway. We don't know if there's any diseases or parasites or anything nasty in there. And purely, we need to make sure that we've got healthy fish and everything that's going into our aquaponic system is healthy. So I'm about to show you how we acclimatize the fish. But the biggest thing here that I'm wanting to say, we need to make sure that the pH and the temperature are the two things that are the same with the water that we're with the fish for when we're adding them. So whether you've got your fish in a bucket and you've moved them from one tank to another and you're putting them in a bucket to then tip in and the water and it's all good, we still need to make sure that the temperature is right. So we need to balance that, just like you've got a bag or something like that from the aquarium, you balance that in the water temperature that you're going to add them into. That helps them to acclimatize to the water and to acclimatize to the temperature. Otherwise, they'll get what's called thermal shock, and we don't want that. We don't want our fish dying. So, as an example, just real quickly before I get into video, I bought some bass from my local aquarium, and they were keeping their bass at 27 degrees Celsius. Okay, so that's very comfortable for the bass. But my aquarium here was 23 degrees. So that's 4 degrees difference. And you'd think, well, that shouldn't make too much difference, but remember that they're fish, that they're kind of used to the steadying temperatures. And in the wild, because we are replicating ecosystems, and I know this was an aquarium, but it's still a mini ecosystem, in the wild, the temperature will increase and it will decrease as the day gets hotter and the day gets cooler. And the fish are used to that switch, that change happening. So if anything that we're doing within our aquaponics system, we need to do the same thing for our fish. So if we're introducing fish, we need to introduce them to the temperature that's going on. So I had to acclimatize those bass in my aquarium to the same temperature. And what I was able to do is I increased my temperature tank by 1 degrees, and then that 3 degrees fluctuation was then easier to adapt them over a few hours. Okay, now generally you don't need to do a few hours, but these guys had been steadily at 27 degrees. So they were very used to that and not fluctuating. So that was a tiny bit different, but it still gives you the understanding of what can happen. So let's get into the video and show you how you acclimatize and what do you do when you've got new fish. How do we even add them to our aquaponics system? Don't forget to hit that subscribe button. I'm putting videos up every couple of days, so make sure that you hit subscribe so you can get all of them. Okay, so I've just got some goldfish that I'm going to put in my barrel aquaponics system. But I'm wanting you to understand what you need to do. We don't just want to tip our fish in, okay? Now, just say you've got your fish from a hatchery or a friend or anything like that. You don't know if their water quality is okay. You don't know if there's any diseases in their water. So it's a good practice. And remember, I come from an aquaculture background, so I'm all about fish welfare and best practice. We're wanting to make sure that we don't put any of this water in that aquaponics system. So what I've done, I've added in my little bucket here that's very dirty and messy, I have put some salt in there, and what the salt will do, the salt will help boost up the immune system of any fish. It will help reduce their stress, and if there is diseases, it will help to minimise that. So by adding some of the fish water from the aquaponics system, adding some salt into that, I'm going to be able to just literally tip these guys in to make sure that everything's okay, and leave them for a little while. But before I do that, just getting my hands tied here, we're wanting to check our temperatures of everything. So the water temperature there is 18, here is 18, and here is 24. Okay, so I'm going to need to just literally just let them sit in the bag, in the water. You can see there's water there, it's all dripping down. So they acclimatise to the temperature, okay? And in about 15 minutes or so, I'll be able to open the bag up fully and start letting some of that water in. We need to fully acclimatise our fish to the temperature and the pH. So I've tested the pH for the aquaponics system water with my crusty little thing, fully calibrated, and the pH is the same, which is fantastic. So I don't have to worry about that part, but the temperature is what will cause thermal shock to your fish if you just tip them in and don't acclimatise them. So these guys are going to sit here for about 15 or so minutes, and then I'm going to slowly add, half a cup of water into the bag. Eventually I'll be able to tip the whole thing up and let them sit in that salt bath for about half an hour or so. Then I'll be using little net, and net the fish into the tank, okay? What we don't want to do is we do not want to put any of this water that's got the salt or that's water from transport. If you've had fish that you've transported for an hour, that you're going to pick them up, awesome, you're going to do that. But your fish could be in water that is incredibly ammonia high. Okay, so they've been breathing lots, they've been pooing lots, they're quite stressed, they're going to be producing lots of ammonia in their bag. You don't want to be adding that into your aquaponics system, and you don't know if there's anything wrong with the water. Now, I know where I've got my fish from. I'm quite comfortable that there's not going to be a problem with that. But if I get fish from someone else, salt bath immediately as soon as they come home. But right now, what are we doing? We're acclimatizing them to the temperature. We've got 18 degrees in the aquaponics, and we've got 24 degrees in this bag. So they're just going to sit and chill, and I'll slowly add the water. Okay? Sweet. So these fishies now have been sitting in their salt bath, and remember, we've been acclimatising them. They had to adapt to the temperature change. pH was the same, which we tested with our kits. They've been sitting in their salt bath now for about half an hour, and I'm quite happy that they're okay. But I don't want to put any of the water from that travelling into my aquaponics system. Not only has it got high amounts of ammonia, which we go, isn't that what we want, Candy? Well, that depends. We don't know what else is in that water either, do we? So I personally would never just tip my fish in. Personal choice, but as I said, after all the years I've worked and done in aquaculture, it's not going to happen. So I'm literally, my fish are at the same temperature, and I'm just gently picking them up and gently putting them into the barrel system. And I know you guys can't see that, but it's just a very, very, very gentle. Remember that they are live creatures, and we don't want to be holding them out of the water too long. And they're swimming in there, and I'll be able to take some recordings with the diving camera soon to let you know.